Welcome to Daps Magic, Disney and Positive Stuff. I'm Mr. Daps, and today is a very exciting day for Disney fans, historians, and business leaders alike. It was announced this morning that the Walt Disney Company will be led by current Disney Experiences chairman, Josh D'Amaro. He will be their next CEO. He'll be joined by Dana Walden, who will be the new president and chief creative officer for the company. This is huge news. It's big news. We knew it was coming. We didn't know exactly when, and we didn't know exactly who it would be, although many of us had our suspicions. But this is a very exciting time because the people who are taking over the company get it. They get the magic. If you've been with Josh D'Amaro when he's interacted with people at D23, in the parks, you name it, you know that we are looking at a very exciting and bright future for the Walt Disney Company, and that's something to be excited for. For those that maybe haven't listened to Daps Magic Disney and Positive Stuff before, I should take a quick aside before we get into everything else that we are all about exactly what the title implies, Disney and Positive Stuff. And if you would like to talk more about this announcement and many other things, we'd love to have you over on Daps Magic HQ. You can go to dapsmagic.com/dapshq and connect with us there. You can also connect with us on social media and YouTube, and we'd love to geek out about more Disney and Positive Stuff with you. All right, let's get into the news. Josh D'Amaro is a very familiar face for anybody who's gone into the parks, particularly Disneyland and Walt Disney World in the last few years. He's been with the Walt Disney Company for 28 years. He started at Disneyland and he has been everywhere else before he returned, I believe, in 2019 as the Disneyland Resort president, before moving on to Walt Disney World as its president, and then being promoted to what was then the Disney Parks and Experiences segment of the Walt Disney Company. Now it's just Disney Experiences. This is a guy who has a track record of being positive, of being kind, of being deliberate, and also being one that is looking towards the future and looking towards how can Disney grow, how can Disney continue to be innovators in the way that they storytell, and how can we keep moving forward, to quote Walt Disney, in the future. Some of the highlights that he's had through the years at Disney Experiences and a little bit before, like he helped with Pandora creating when he was working out at Walt Disney World before he was the Disneyland president. He also helped with Galaxy's Edge opening, Avengers Campus opening, World of Frozen opening, and so much more around the globe. It's been an exciting time to watch Disney Experiences in the parks under his leadership. He's also been instrumental in the role with Epic Games that it's taking with the Walt Disney Company, which is leading to things in the park and things out of the parks, and really making that connection from the experiences you have at home with the experiences you have when you go and experience a day at your favorite Disney park. He also has been, I think perhaps most importantly, instrumental in changing the culture of the Disney parks and Walt Disney Imagineering. There was a time before he took over chairman as Disney Experiences that things were a little bit glum. Like it wasn't the hopeful, exciting place that you would hope, especially Walt Disney Imagineering, would be. And what Josh D'Amaro has done as the leader of Disney Experiences over the last, 5-6 years, is he's put the right people in the right places. And this has led to a more positive environment. This has led to a more innovative and creative environment. And it's led to many new exciting things for Disney fans to experience. And there's more on the horizons. You know, we are looking at the expansion of the timeline of the Star Wars Galaxy's Edge land at Disneyland, and hopefully future that will happen at Walt Disney World as well. But with all of these things, you could think, oh, he's just a really good corporate suit. But he's much more than that. He doesn't just focus on operational excellence. He also has a genuine passion for the guest and the guest experience. And he has it himself. If you've been at Disneyland, you've probably, as on a regular basis, I should say, you've probably seen Josh walking around the parks, you know, with his family, with his wife, hanging out for a Saturday afternoon, enjoying, one day I saw him at Lunar New Year celebration. He enjoys the parks for his own sake just as much as he enjoys creating things for his family and for guests around the world as much. And as I've seen through the years, Josh come to the parks, and I've seen him elsewhere too, but the parks is really what stands out to me. I've seen him interact with guests. I've seen him interact with cast members. And the way he does that is always incredibly kind. It's always very focused. Like when you're talking to Josh, he's focused on you and he's giving you the world around him in that moment. And in a way, I would like to think that's kind of Walt-like. Like he has a heart there that is passionate for the parks that are being built, the new stories that are being told, and the people that get to experience them. I think of Disneyland Handcrafted, which we just reviewed and watched a few times now, and you really hear the message that Walt Disney wanted people to be better when they left Disneyland than when they get there. And he really wanted them to be happier. And that's something I've seen Josh do through the years as well. And when he takes the role of CEO for the Walt Disney Company on March 18th, it'll be very exciting to see how he takes that passion and that drive that we've seen at the Disney Experiences level and before that, at a parks level individually. But how does he take that and scale it up for the entirety of the Walt Disney Company? He will now be overseeing, studios, ESPN, and so many other things that happen. I think there's like 200 companies that make up the Walt Disney Company or something like that when you consider all the subsidiaries. But I think he's the right guy for the job. He's currently leading the largest segment of the Walt Disney Company. It's been the most profitable and in recent years, and it'll be exciting to see what comes next. Another exciting part of the news today, though, is Dana Walden taking on the role of president and chief creative officer of the Walt Disney Company. This is the first time that the Walt Disney Company has had a female in that role. So this isn't just exciting because of who she is and what she can do, because she has a fantastic resume. But this is also breaking that glass ceiling and taking it one level higher. And that's going to be super exciting to see what happens in this role as well. And she will be reporting directly to Josh, as you would expect in this new role. And her job is really to focus on the storytelling, and that's across the entire company. So she's been the co-chairperson of entertainment, and really her focus in the last couple of years, she came over when they purchased 20th Century, but for the last 5-6 years, her focus really has been on streaming and building that up. And I think she oversees linear television as well, but that's been her purview. And now she's going to be taking the storytelling that we've seen on Disney Plus, Hulu, you name it, and she's going to be applying that to every touch point of the Walt Disney Company. So, that could be in the parks, that could be on a ship, that could be, Epic Games somehow, that could be ESPN. Like there's some really incredible stories coming out of ESPN. And you think of that, it's not just focused on studios, it's focused on everything the Walt Disney Company does and is about. And I think that's an important thing, because one of the focal points, I guess you could say, of the announcement of both Josh and Dana this morning is that the number one thing is storytelling. And I think there's going to be new ways that we experience that and new ways that that's presented. But at the end of the day, they're really bringing both Josh and Dana in to be the ultimate storytellers. And that's going to be an interesting thing, because both of them, I would say, have creative elements, and both of them, I would say, have very solid operational elements to their jobs. And so you've got Josh coming out of experiences, you've got Dana coming out of entertainment, and you've got two people that have similar but probably contrasting at some level gifts for both operation and imagination. And traditionally, what we've seen with the Walt Disney Company, when you have two people that are kind of paired up like this, you see a Walt and a Roy, or you see a Michael Eisner and a Frank Wells. Bob Iger kind of just did his own thing. And I think he's an anomaly, both as a CEO and then also as a leader of the Walt Disney Company. But with what we're going to see with Josh and Dana is two people that are very talented on multiple fronts that are really sharing the load. And I think it's smart to set things up this way because you do have to have a person where the buck stops, and that will be Josh. But in this case, we're not going to see a true, like, this is the creative person and this is the operational person, because both have proven that they can be quite competent with this. And so I kind of almost think you're seeing a more a teamwork approach where the load is shared probably based on passion points, if I were to make a guess, versus being, hey, this is Josh, he's our creative guy, and Dana's going to take care of the operational components so that Josh can keep being creative, which would be a very Walt and Roy approach. And I just don't think that's what we're looking at here. I don't think it's that traditional creative and supporting, supported by an operational person at the top. I think what we're seeing is two people that are competent leaders and competent executives that know how to inspire and lead people at the top. And together, they're going to just have a reach where, there might be different strengths and weaknesses that each have that they can help supplement. But it'll be very interesting to watch. And that's a little bit harder to predict. It'll also be very interesting to see how their relationships with the segments they haven't necessarily been working with on a day-to-day basis in the traditional sense work. So, Dana with experiences in ESPN, and Josh with entertainment and ESPN as well. And the thing to keep in mind with this, at least from my observations, is they're already all working together. Like, the synergy at the Walt Disney Company is incredible. And they've already got working knowledge of how these things operate. What they might not have, though, is the day-to-day intricacies of, this is how movies are made specifically. These are the right ways to go about things. There's going to be a learning process, I can only assume. What I do know, though, is that learning process has already begun. So Bob Iger, we've known he's going to be retiring for quite some time. He came back 3 years ago, I believe it is now, and almost 4. But he came in really to right the ship. And the Walt Disney Company was kind of in a dangerous place where it had gotten itself into a position where activist investors could have come in and really made some changes that probably would have led to short-term financial benefits for shareholders, but really could have damaged the brand long-term. And so when Bob Iger was brought back in, he really focused on righting the ship, creating a solid foundation for whoever would be his eventual successor, and really setting up the shot, to use a baseball or a basketball analogy. But he really was setting up the company for who came next and what the future of the company would be. And he did that by reorganizing the company into what it is today, which will be experiences, ESPN or sports, and then also the entertainment segments, which is just 3 segments. It's a very solid and easy to understand organizational structure. It'll be interesting to see if that gets tweaked at all in the future. You could almost argue now that there's a 4th segment in the marketing role under Asad Ayaz, and it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. But what Bob Iger has done is he's really worked with the current board under the leadership of James Gorman to make sure that the future and this succession, from his role as CEO to senior advisor to retirement, is much smoother than the one that was when Bob Iger tried to do it before with Bob Chapek. And part of this is you learn. Like, I give Disney lots of credit, is you see throughout the company at different points, when things don't work, Disney generally learns from these things and tries to do better. And so what we're seeing now is Disney has been very rigorous about making sure that this process is very smooth. They want to make sure they have the right people in the right places and they're heading in the right direction. And so what we're seeing this time, and what I predict that we will see this time, is not a huge change when Josh and Dana take over on March 18th. What we're going to see instead is more of a progression instead of a pivot. And so you're not going to see a sudden, like, oh, this project's not happening anymore, or oh, we're now completely reorganizing the company again. So we will instead see, the Monsters Inc. land continue to be built. The Avatar land or area at Disneyland probably still getting built. Coco definitely still happening. Like the projects that are already in process are going to keep going, and you're going to see more progress on them. And this is, as I'm thinking about this, with Josh D'Amaro at the top, of course, the projects that he put at Disney Experiences are going to keep moving forward. It'll be interesting to see how the initiatives in the movies and the different things coming out of entertainment and sports continue as well. But I would predict that we are going to see a pretty straightforward transition, that we'll see Josh and Dana continuing to move forward. What we're also going to see as this moves forward is not just a status quo. That's dangerous. What we are going to see is the probably gradual peeling of the onion of what Josh and Dana's visions are for the future. And they've shared this with the board over the course of this succession process, I can speak. So the board already knows a lot of this. We're going to hear these things in the coming days, months, and years. And I think one of the big places we'll hear some of this will be at D23 this summer in August. And that will be very fun to hear what's coming in the future, from Disneyland Abu Dhabi to future movies to streaming. Even, like, what does the future of streaming look like? Because we're still in this pivot. This is where we are in a pivot point, is we're kind of pivoting from the old way of digesting media to a new way. I mean, how many people still have cable? How many people, even fewer, still watch off of airwaves? Like, people just don't use antennas anymore to watch TV. We use our phones, we use computers, we use iPads, whatever it is. And it'll be very interesting to see how that progresses, and how the innovation and the immersiveness continues to grow. Because I think one of the things you could see as we move forward is the lines between entertainment and the experiences segments get further blurred. And this will be fantastic. So, the lines between a Star Wars movie and Galaxy's Edge, further blurred. The lines between, we've got Avengers Doomsday coming out later this year, and what we see in Avengers Campus, also further blurred. And these stories that we see on screens, big and small, will just continue onto, our phones and our devices at home, and then into the parks as well. And not only will they continue these stories, but I actually do think we're going to see that people will become more of the stories as they get to experience them and be a part of them. And I think Galaxy's Edge really is, for all of its pros and cons with making guests and cast members part of the stories, they've done a really good job of it. I was spending an afternoon out there a week or two ago and just watching, Rey interacting with little recruits, or you've got the First Order running around looking for spies for the Resistance. Like, they've really done a good job of taking that era of Star Wars and taking it to a new level, actually multiple levels, because we've got the Mandalorian stuff going on too. But they've done a great job of taking what you see on screen and letting you be a part of that story. And I think we're going to see more of that in the future. So the big date for all of this is going to be March 18th, 2026. And then we're really, maybe we'll see it beforehand. Then we're going to really start seeing, what does that future look like? there's going to be new technology. You've got the OpenAI deal going on. You've got the new NFL partnership. But I really think there's a spirit of Walt that is definitely embodied in Josh D'Amaro. And as we get to know Dana Walden better, I think is there as well. They're both world-class storytellers, and they legitimately care about the stories that are told and how they're told, and the people that get to experience them. And that's an exciting place for us to be as Disney fans, because what we're now seeing is we're in an era of Disney where Bob Iger has basically run the company for about 20 years. And during those 20 years, we've seen really an expansion of the foundation that's going to take us to the future 20 or the next 20 years. So we've seen, the studios being purchased, whether it's Pixar, Lucasfilm, Marvel, 20th Century. Those are stories that are foundational to what's going on in the future of the Walt Disney Company. And so we'll have more Pixar, we'll have more Star Wars, we'll have more Simpsons, we'll have more Avengers, all of these stories. And what Bob Iger really did was he built up the library of possibilities for where the Walt Disney could go. And so now you have, or an arsenal actually is probably a better word. He filled that arsenal, and he will be passing that on to Josh and Dana, and they get to take that and use this arsenal of tools and stories and studios and technology that have been integrated into the Walt Disney Company over the last 20 years. And they really get to fine tune them and really reimagine what they're going to look like in the future. You think of 20th Century, this fantastic old school studio that's being reinvented as we're moving to the future. And it'll be very interesting to see what exactly they do with all of these tools in their arsenal. And where Bob Iger's reign was very much an acquisition era, I kind of think we're turning and pivoting into an innovation era. And we'll see if this turns out to be right. But it'll be interesting. I think, as we look back, we're going to see the Iger era was, I'm going to go with this. The Iger era was an acquisition growth era. And I think the next era, especially with just how technology and how accessible technology is and the possibilities that are there, that the next era, there might be acquisitions. I really think it's going to be more about innovation. And as I'm thinking and flushing this thought out in my head as I do this live, because the news just came out, I think that's something we've already been seeing Josh D'Amaro do in the experiences segment, whether it's through, the robots that are, the BDX robots that are absolutely adorable and semi-autonomous, and some of the new, attraction experiences we've had in the last couple of years and the ones we have to look forward to. I'm going to double down on that. I think the next era is going to be one of innovation, and that's going to be very fun to see how they innovate and imagine new ways to storytell as we're looking towards this new era with Josh D'Amaro and Dana Walden leading the Walt Disney Company. What it comes down to for movies, I don't know. Like, that will be a very interesting thing to see as well. I'm also very curious. I think a big question mark is who will end up leading Disney experiences. I think there are some fantastic candidates out there that are on our horizon, whether it's, the leader of Disneyland Paris. You could see Ken Potrock. You could see Thomas Masloom. You could see Michael Moriarty. There's quite a few different people, and those are just the ones that popped into my head. And that could be an entire podcast on its own, discussing who could end up taking the reins of Disney experiences and taking this segment to the next level. And a lot of what we do as Disney fans is focused on Disney experiences because we go to the parks and because we love seeing, the new attractions that come and the new shows and the new parades and the new fireworks and other innovations that are coming. And we don't even know. Like, it's going to be great. So I think it's going to be a very exciting era to follow along with Disney news. I hope that you will follow along with us as we continue to cover this story and so many more on dapsmagic.com. We do have an article about Dana and Josh's announcement this morning that has quotes from them and kind of a definition of what's going on moving forward and how this transition is actually going to take place. You can find that on dapsmagic.com. Make sure, as always, to head on over to Daps Magic HQ so that you can geek out about this and so much more, as we just love covering this stuff. You know, we love to focus on Disney and positive stuff. And in the world that's so difficult and has so many things throwing at you on a daily basis, I think it's good to have a place that you can escape and focus on some of the fun things in life. And I firmly believe that what you focus on grows. And I think you do need to have that positivity that you can focus on. Just because, you know, let's have more positive. Let's build that up. So we'd love to see you over on Daps HQ. And you could also connect with us on social media, on YouTube. We're there. It's fantastic. And we love geeking it out about Disney and positive stuff with you. Also, if you feel like it, I would love a review wherever you're listening to this podcast. It does help us get seen. It helps us get more opportunities. And I'd love to hear from you what you would like to hear on future episodes of Daps Magic, Disney, and positive stuff. Because at the end of the day, we do this together, and I would much rather have conversations with you that are really your core interests. Like, let's make it as fun as we can for everybody. Doesn't always need to be me picking all the topics and the interviews and whatever else is going on. As always, remember, every Tuesday night, you can catch us live on Geeks Corner, and you can go to geekscorner.live to do that. And we are on 8:30 every Tuesday night live. And then if you're a member of Daps Magic HQ, you can catch us afterwards for a special after show called Daps After Dark. And you can bet that this week will be focused on Dana and Josh. Once again, a huge congratulations to Josh D'Amaro. We couldn't ask for a better guy to lead Disney into this next era. And a huge congratulations to Dana Walden. I can't wait to see what you do in this new role. And I just can't wait to see what's coming for the future with Disney. This feels like the right people at the right time, heading in the right direction. Let me know what your thoughts are. I'd love to hear them. Let me know who you think should take over Disney experiences, and let me know where you think the company is going. I have my own ideas, but I am not the only person that knows anything. You know, I might just be a talking head for all I know. Who knows? Anyway, hope you're having a fantastic week. Hope you make it a fantastic week. And always remember, keep kind.